Hi guys, welcome to another review video at OnWheelsTV. It is fully dedicated to the new endurance pack released by Studio 397 for rFactor2. So this is a very important release. It comes out as a DLC which you guys will have to buy, but I can surely tell you that there will not be any other 15 euros best well spent than this one, at least until the next release from Studio 397. So first of all, apologies, because you will notice that in the top right of the screen there is a small issue in the graphics card. I believe my graphics card has seen better days, and hopefully soon I will be able to replace it or fix this, but that's for another time. So let us dedicate to the 5 cars released in this endurance pack for rFactor2. You are watching the first one of them, obviously first with some Brazilian music, because we selected the São Paulo track for this video, and it was a different way to start the video, nothing more than that. But this is the first car, the most powerful of them all. It is the Oreca 07 car from the LMP2 class. So one thing that all these 5 cars released in this pack share in common is the fact that all of them are officially licensed for the sim, and besides that, all the manufacturers provided very important data, tech data, to Studio 397 to develop these cars to the most accurate simulation version possible when compared to the real car. So this is the most powerful of the 5 cars in the pack. The Oreca 07 is at the moment the car that is completely dominating the LMP2 scene in the World Endurance Championship and also in the European Le Mans Series, this talking about real championships. And this car has several teams that race this car have helped Studio 397 with the tech data for this car. Teams such as Dragon Speed, Jackie Chan Racing, Duquesne Engineering were really important, allowing the guys from Studio 397 to have the most accurate data to develop this car for sim racing. The car is very powerful. It is not an easy car to drive, but it's the most forgiving of all the cars in terms of the mistakes that the sim racer does when behind the wheel. As usual, during the video you will have TV cam laps and also onboard camera laps. We will be trying always to get the sound as defined as possible, so that you can hear us good and hear the sound, because the sound is something really important in this release. The cars have amazing sounds, and better than that, the sounds really look close, really close to the sounds of the real cars. But also in this release, the sounds are not the only important thing or the only important detail, because people that think, for instance, that this endurance pack is expensive or too much expensive, well, aside from that being a mistake, the endurance pack also is the first release that introduces very important changes in terms of the dynamics of the sim, in terms of the physics of the cars, and this will affect in the near future other cars officially released by Studio 397 for rFactor2. I'm talking specifically about some in-car adjustments as well as the tires. There is a new tire. That is being developed by Studio 397, and that tire is already present in all these 5 cars. And this tire will also, with the further development they will be doing, be added to the GT3 pack, to the Formula E car, and these are 2 other DLCs that Studio 397 recently released. But this tire will also be introduced in many of the cars present in the sim. Also, not yet released with the endurance pack, but also to be released soon in this sim, is a new track, a new version of Sebring, which was laser scanned by Studio 397, so I'm not sure, but I won't be far from the truth if I say that this will be the first laser scanned track. No, I'm far from the truth. Also, the Hong Kong track released for the Formula E car, the Formula E DLC, was also laser scanned. So Sebring is another laser scanned track, and laser scanned tracks are really important because they reflect the real track. They are scanned based on the real track and with all that the real track has at the moment of that laser scan. So this allows the sim racer to have a really truthful version of a track. So these are very important details, this one about the tires, but not only about the tires. There are new in-car adjustments. Sorry, I'm not English. I try to do my best speaking English. Please forgive me for any imprecision in my speech or in my commentary. Sorry guys. So this is the Norma M30 LMP3. So this is an LMP3 car, another prototype, along with the LMP2 car from Oreca. So this endurance pack has two prototypes. This is the LMP3, which is a car that is a lot different when compared with the LMP2. First of all, because it doesn't have that much power. This car is around 6 to 7 seconds slower on a lap, especially on a track such as this one, São Paulo, which is a different name to refer to Interlagos. Also, this car does not have any aids, so there is no traction control. There is no ABS in this car, so this is more about the driving, and this car is more or less 1 to 1.5 seconds faster than a GTE car. So it's interesting when we see these cars racing, for instance, when people start, and they will start, because the impact that this endurance pack is having on the community is tremendous. It couldn't be any different because this is an amazing release. So this will affect a lot of sim racers that do compete in the sim, and they will be using this endurance pack, this DLC, and it will be interesting to see these cars competing with GTE cars and LMP2 cars, trying to overtake these two specific cars, the LMP3s and the GTEs, because their power is very similar, and in some tracks it will be really difficult to handle traffic with these two different cars, but with more or less the same performance. So this car does not have traction control, but there are for the sim, and also in this endurance pack, new in-car adjustments, and these in-car adjustments are specifically the traction control and ABS, which can be now controlled from within the car. So you can configure this in the garage when you are preparing a setup, but you also can adjust the cars by selecting in your controls by selecting a specific button or a specific keyboard button on the keyboard, sorry, where that allows you to onboard the car. So when driving, you can adjust more traction control, less traction control, depending on the area of the track that you need that option the most. So this is another very important feature, but there are others. There's a new function for the lights of the cars, and you guys will not be watching that in this video, but we will be releasing a video specifically about that, and about the dynamic weather, which are two very important features in the sim that separate it from all the other sims, aside from other stuff. Each sim has its talents. But there's also a new way that the lights work, and that is interesting to see, obviously, using this content. So we will be leaving that for a different video. So let's talk about this this LMP3 car. The car has a lot of weight, and in fact, in all these 5 cars, you do feel the way that the weight influences the handling of the car, the performance, the power, the acceleration, the braking, the weight distribution. So you do feel that, although we are talking about a sim. It is interesting that this car has not that much power. It has an amazing sound also. It is not that easy to handle. People tend to say, well, if it doesn't have that much power, probably it is easier to handle. It's not. It's difficult to handle. It's easier than the LMP2 car, but also the LMP2 car has traction control. This one doesn't. So the car is slow on acceleration, especially when exiting low speed turns, but it is very demanding on driving, and it is a lot of fun to drive this car. Although, speaking for myself about what I like the most, I do enjoy too much the GTE cars, but I would say that I would probably like to drive this car more than I do the LMP2 car. But this is not the first LMP3 car released for the sim. It is the first official, but you guys that are familiar with the sports cars mods for rFactor2 probably already tested the Enduracers mod, which also has LMP3 cars. But I'm sorry if I'm going to hurt someone, but these you will not be able to compare this LMP3 with the other available in the sim, and in fact I would advise you not to do so, because you will be disappointed, because this is a proper LMP3 car. Obviously these guys from Studio 397 had access to official data, and that helps a lot when bringing to life a virtual version of a real car. Anyway, the car is amazing, the sounds are amazing, the physics works to perfection in this car, as it does with any other car from this endurance pack. I already told someone when we were talking about this, I already said that I do believe that 15 euros for such an amazing content is really cheap, to say the least, because this is probably the best, this is definitely the best release so far from Studio 397 for the sim, and allows us to see which way they are going, and they are definitely going the right way. They are following the right direction with this sim, and us users of the sim have to feel really glad that they are choosing this path. Third car available in the endurance pack. I'm just gonna shut up so that you can listen to the sound. So guys, this is the BMW M8 GTE. This is a new car. Even in real life, this is the first season of the M8 GTE, the new asset by BMW Motorsports to compete in the World Endurance Championship, as well as in the States in the IMSA Tudor and at the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Sorry guys, this is like, I don't do this with text behind me, so I try to keep things in my mind and I speak what I think. Forgive me for some imprecision. So this is the first virtual version of this car in a sim. rFactor2 is introducing this car for the first time in a simulator, and this, as with all the other cars released in this endurance pack, for this release, Studio 397 also had help from BMW Motorsports, and in fact they were at Spa during the Belgian round of the World Endurance Championship. They were there, the guys from Studio 397, and they had several talks with the tech staff from BMW Motorsports, as well as with the drivers of the BMW M8. This team is very special, even for me, because there's a Portuguese driver there, my good friend Antonio Felix da Costa, that his friends call as Formiga, which is the Portuguese name for ant. He was very tiny. He was always a monster on track, but always very tiny in size. That didn't affect him, but anyway, he got that nickname from those early days in his racing life. Anyway, the car is amazing, the sounds are amazing, the car is fantastic to drive. All these three GTE cars are fantastic to drive. They all look different in terms of the handling. They all will have better performance in some tracks. Some will be better than other in some tracks, and vice versa. This car is a beauty in every way. In the dynamics, in the looks, the car works really well. The handling is tough. This is not just turning it around and making it work. This is really close in terms of the handling, as it should be with the real car. And this is why these guys had why it's so important to have access to that data that allows that the sim version is close to the one in real life. And this car, and in fact we did that with all 5 cars in this track. We did not use rubber on track. Those of you that don't know rFactor2 should know that in the sim the rubber keeps getting to the track, keeps adding to the track, and the more cars on track, that the faster that happens. So this in the sim, you can see what you can see in real life, that the cars are developing their performance on track and leaving the rubber on the tarmac. This also happens on rFactor2. Anyway, we didn't want to use the real road option, which is the one the sim uses, and we also did not want to mix with to handle the setup. So yeah, that's sometimes when you touch there the curb, it's slippery, and this happens. Yeah, we wanted to show this in the video, no harm done. And now we go again for an onboard lap, starting from some other cameras, but then with the onboard lap, with the onboard camera. So the car is tricky to drive, and with the default setup that we used in all 5 cars, we performed our best lap in this track in 1:34.0, which is not a bad lap time if you consider that there is no rubber on track and we are using a default setup. So we did not set the car to properly work in this track. Anyway, this car performed in 1:34.0 in its best lap. The Porsche, which is the car you are going to see next, performed in 1:34.4, and then the the Corvette, which is the final car in this video, performed in 1:33.9. But we made a small mistake and exit the track limits, although we do believe that made us slower in the lap. Anyway, you will be watching that in the when this video develops, the Porsche and the Vette. So this car is fantastic. I would say that this car is the easier or the less difficult to handle of all the 3 GTE cars. But this is an amazing car. I do hope that people that don't know the sim and enjoy this car in real life can try it on rFactor2, because it does deserve a try. It's an awesome car. And this is the other, also an official version. And in fact, we do have to congratulate Porsche for finally opening their eyes to proper sims. With all due respect, they were already in other video game platforms. I would not call them simulators, but they are now on iRacing, which is a proper simulator. They are on Assetto Corsa, which is another proper simulator. They are on Race Room, another proper simulator, and now they are also on rFactor2. So these are 4 proper simulators. So at the moment, the only sim that does not have these cars officially is Automobilista. We do hope that that can happen in the future, so that Porsche can be well represented officially in all the top simulators out there. So the car has amazing sounds. We did see lots of comments in the community when the Studio 397 were already releasing some footage of the cars, and people did enjoy indeed the sound of this car. We do enjoy the sound of the 5 cars. They are all amazing. They are all really different, and they do reflect the ambience of these cars in real life. The amazing sound in this Porsche car has tremendous power. I would say that this is the powerful of the 3. That doesn't mean that the car is faster, and in fact in this track we were not able to beat the times of the BMW and also of the Corvette. But the Porsche is an amazing car to drive. The engine is in the rear, as it always happens with the 911. Anyway, this is car is tricky. You do feel the weight of the car, you do feel the weight of the engine, but the car is fantastic to drive. One important thing I would like to add to this comment in this video about these cars, mainly the GTE cars. Studio 397 is preparing, obviously, to develop and update the physics of the cars, as well as the physics of the new tire model, which I already mentioned earlier in the video. But these cars, you don't see that here, but because we just chose 4 or 5 laps of each car to show you in this footage. But we tested thoroughly all the 5 cars, and all the GTE cars, we noticed that when the tire wears, the car gets really nervous in the rear. So which is probably a little bit too much when compared with the real car. But we know that the guys from Studio 397 have been listening to the community's feedback on this, and the community already made them aware of the handling of the car once the tire gets weary, and once the tire wears more. I don't know if I use the proper term, I hope so. But they are on top of this, and we must not forget that the tire model is new, so they are continuously developing this tire model. Anyway, after a significant number of laps in the tire, the car starts losing grip, and especially it gets really nervous in the rear. Anyway, that will force us to drive being more careful and probably also slower, but being slower is what happens once the tire wears more than it should be, or starting from a specific percentage, dropping down, it loses efficiency, and with that we get slower. Anyway, as you can see, the cars also do reflect what the real cars are like from the inside. This wheel, if you did watch, for instance, today the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which Toyota finally won, congratulations to them. You probably noticed when watching footage from onboard of the GTE cars, and Porsche also won in the GTE class and also in the GTE M class. Also congratulations to them. But you'll notice that this wheel that you see here in the onboard view is just like the one in real life. So simulator versions of cars, or sim versions of cars, keep getting closer to the real deal, and also real life manufacturers and teams keep getting aware, keep becoming aware of the importance of sim racing, and of the importance of sim racing being just more than a game. It does provide also an important tool for teams and for manufacturers, and this is why both these activities should walk side by side, real racing and sim racing. Aside from the fact that with the cost and with the economy developing, these things such as testing become much more expensive, and making life harder on teams, especially private teams, and sim racing becomes a very important tool to practice, unless we are talking about developing tires, which for that you need the real version of the cars and of the tires. But for many other things, sim racing is becoming an increasingly important tool, even for motorsports. So this is great news that the manufacturers are keeping an eye on sim racing and on the top manufacturers from sim racing, so that this becomes much more of an area of motorsports than just being a video game. That is great news. So the Porsche, fantastic, amazing to drive. All of these cars amazing at this track, also an official track, although a partnership between the Studio 397, previously Image Space Incorporated, and Razer Studios, which developed this track for GameStop Car and also more recently for Automobilista, and the car feels fantastic here. Final car, our favorite. This car was already available although from third-party company modders. This car was already available in the sim, but this is the latest version. As well, important to say that the M8, the Porsche, and these they are using for this simulation the most recent specs. So the specs that were provided for Studio 397 to develop all these cars, at least we know that this info is very accurate in terms of the GTE cars. These cars in the simulator, they use the latest specs available for the real car. This is another important information for those of you that think that this DLC is expensive. Crazy people. Anyway, to our liking, to our pleasure, this was the most interesting car to drive. We drove all these cars in maybe since we bought the DLC, because yes, we did. Studio 397 had already been kind enough to provide us some DLCs that we were not able to, at least so far, produce in terms of a video. So it was it was important for us that we did buy this, and we did. Not that we wouldn't talk bad about the mod or about the DLC if it was bad, if it was given to us, because if they give us or if they sell us, that is just an economic, a money detail. But the DLC is really good, and this car is the one that we enjoyed the most. The sound is fantastic, but the sound is fantastic in all 5 cars. But the handling of this car, the way the car performs on track, maybe because of our driving, this car is fantastic. And as all the others, you do feel the weight. The weight works different in all these GTE cars. That is also another talent of this DLC. It's just not like some many other versions of cars released for the sim, that they use the same mask, the same physics mask. The car has a different name, but the performance is the same. For instance, you can see that in mods such as the Copa Petrobras de Marcas mod, which uses 5 or 6 cars in the Automobilista sim, but the cars had the same physics model to develop all these cars. And here these are 3 GTE cars with 3 completely different handling, and with 3 completely different performances that are able to perform the same lap times. So the balance of performance in these cars is very well tuned, although the cars feel and drive differently, all these 3 cars. This one is the one we enjoyed the most. This Vet is a true pleasure to drive. The way that the car moves around the track is amazing. The power of the engine is fantastic, and it was with this car that we were able to perform our best lap. Although, and I will show you specifically that, although we made a mistake, probably we did cook a little bit the braking. It's going to be in the end of this straight, not in this lap, but in the end of this straight, and that affected our lap. I do believe we did go over the track limits. We did go off track, but we do believe that with that we lost some time because of the way that the car understeered, and then we have to take a little bit of gas off the pedal and get back to the track smoothly. So I do believe that we were not benefited by that small excursion off track. Anyway, even with that mistake that made us slower, we were able to perform the best lap. But this does not mean that this car is faster than the M8 or the Porsche, because it isn't. It's a matter of setup for each track. There will be tracks that will benefit the M8, there will be tracks that will benefit the Porsche, and there will be tracks that will benefit the Vet. The talent of the driver will also play a very important role. In fact, we do believe, as we know already from sim racing, that is the most important detail, the talent of the driver. And I do have to admit, I'm not even in the top
500 of the most talented guys. So, but I like myself being the way I am. Yeah, it's as it is. I'm pretty, so can't be perfect in everything. Anyway, I'm joking. So, final comments during this final lap, and here on braking now you are going to see what I mentioned. I do believe I understeer there, I go out, I have to be careful because of that curb there, it's very slippery, but then I get back, and even so I performed a good lap. So very quickly, final comments. Amazing release, amazing direction. Congratulations to Studio 397 for their tremendous quality work. I was skeptical, I must admit, when I saw that going away from Image Space Incorporated, and I was a bit suspicious in the beginning with Studio 397. I do have to say, because I'm humble enough to do so, that I was completely dead wrong. These guys are working with passion, they are working for sim racing, and they are putting their passion where they should be to make this an even better sim. And this is the way that we want sim racing to go, at least those of us that love sim racing. Congratulations to Studio 397. I hope you enjoyed this long video. Thank you, and please do like the video if you enjoyed. Bye bye.